My cousin insisted I cater her entire wedding for free, saying, "It'll be great exposure for your business." When I declined, she rolled her eyes. "Fine. I'll find someone better." So I skipped the wedding. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of missed calls. The food was a disaster. "We need you now." I run a small catering business. It's nothing huge, just a local operation, but I've built a solid reputation over the years. I take pride in my work, and I'm not one to cut corners just to save a few bucks. Food is my livelihood. It's more than just a job to me, it's my passion, my art, my way of bringing people together during their most important moments. I've been doing this for 8 years now, ever since I graduated from culinary school with dreams of opening my own restaurant. The catering business wasn't my original plan, but it grew organically when friends started asking me to cook for their parties. Word spread, and before I knew it, I had a steady stream of clients who trusted me with their celebrations. My kitchen is my sanctuary. It's a modest setup in a rented commercial space downtown, nothing fancy, but it's mine. The walls are lined with photos from hundreds of events I've catered, birthday parties, corporate lunches, anniversary celebrations, and yes, weddings. Each photo represents a memory, a moment when my food helped make someone's day special. I keep a small notebook where I write down comments from happy clients. "Your salmon was perfection." "The cake brought tears to my eyes." "You saved our event." These words mean everything to me. The business has its challenges, of course. The margins are tight, the hours are long, and there's always the stress of making sure everything goes perfectly. I've had my share of disasters, ovens breaking down on event day, suppliers delivering the wrong ingredients, staff calling in sick at the last minute. But I've learned to adapt, to have backup plans, to stay calm under pressure. That's what separates the professionals from the amateurs in this business. I remember one particularly challenging wedding where the bride changed her menu 3 times in the week leading up to the event. Each change meant recalculating costs, reordering ingredients, and adjusting our prep schedule. My staff thought I was crazy for accommodating her, but I knew how important this day was to her. The wedding went off without a hitch, and the bride sent me a handwritten thank you note that I still keep in my recipe folder. Building trust with clients is everything in this business. When someone hires me, they're not just buying food, they're buying peace of mind. They need to know that I'll show up on time, that the food will be delicious and beautifully presented, and that I'll handle any problems that arise without bothering them. That reputation took years to build, and I protect it fiercely. So when my cousin Megan called me up one day, gushing about her upcoming wedding, I was genuinely happy for her. Megan and I had always had a complicated relationship. She was the kind of person who lived for attention, who needed to be the center of every story. Growing up, family gatherings often revolved around whatever drama was happening in Megan's life. She was 3 years younger than me, and had always been the golden child in our extended family, beautiful, charming, and seemingly destined for greatness. After high school, Megan had bounced between different careers. She'd tried modeling, then real estate, then marketing, never quite finding her niche. She had a habit of talking big about her plans and opportunities, but follow-through was never her strong suit. Still, she was family, and when she told me about her engagement to her boyfriend Marcus, I was genuinely excited for her. Marcus seemed like a solid guy, quiet, steady, worked in accounting. He balanced out Megan's more dramatic tendencies, and they'd been together for 3 years. The engagement had been a long time coming, and I was happy that she'd found someone who could ground her. At first we chatted for a bit about the wedding plans, and then she dropped the bombshell. "I want you to cater the whole thing," she said excitedly. I smiled. "That's great, what's your budget? I can work with you too." I was already mentally calculating possibilities. Wedding catering was my specialty, and I'd learned to work with all kinds of budgets. For family, I'd be willing to keep my margins lower, maybe suggest some cost-effective menu options that would still impress the guests. I had several packages I could offer, from simple cocktail hour appetizers to full multi-course dinner service. "Oh," she interrupted. "I was hoping you'd do it for free. You know, as a wedding gift?" I nearly choked. The casualness with which she said it, as if she were asking me to bring a bottle of wine to a dinner party, completely floored me. She wanted me to cater a wedding of 150+ guests for free. The sheer audacity of the request left me speechless for a moment. Now I love my family, but this was a massive request. A full-service catering job for a wedding that size would run thousands. I quickly did the math in my head. For 150 guests, we'd be looking at least $8,000 in food costs alone, not counting labor, equipment rental, service staff, and my own time. We'd need to prepare appetizers for the cocktail hour, a full dinner service with multiple courses, and probably a late-night snack. The prep work alone would take my entire team 3 days. I tried to be polite. "Megan, I'd love to help, but that's a lot of work. The ingredients alone would cost me a fortune, not to mention labor and time. I just can't do that for free." I could hear the disappointment in her voice, but I also detected something else, a sense of entitlement, as if she genuinely believed that family members should provide professional services for free. It reminded me of all the times growing up when Megan would expect special treatment, when she'd pout and manipulate until she got her way. She pouted. "But you're family. And this is my business," I said firmly. I'd learned over the years that I had to be clear about boundaries, especially with family. I'd made the mistake early in my career of doing free work for relatives, thinking it would lead to referrals and goodwill. Instead, it had led to more requests for free work and a devaluation of my services. The conversation grew increasingly tense. Megan tried several different approaches. She appealed to family loyalty, suggested that the exposure would be good for my business, even hinted that other family members would be disappointed if I didn't help out. But I held firm. I offered to give her a family discount, to help her find cost-effective menu options, to work with whatever budget she had. But free was off the table. She sighed dramatically. Fine. I'll find someone better. The dismissive way she said it stung more than I expected. Someone better, as if my 8 years of experience, my culinary training, my track record of successful events meant nothing. As if I were some amateur who should be grateful for the opportunity. At that point, I shrugged it off. If she wanted to burn a bridge over free food, that was on her. I'd learned not to take family drama too personally, and I had plenty of paying clients to keep me busy. I didn't hear much about the wedding after that. The family grapevine was unusually quiet about Megan's wedding plans, which I found a bit odd. Usually, her events were the subject of endless discussion and speculation. My mom mentioned in passing that Megan had found another caterer who was just as good, and I didn't give it another thought. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, I threw myself into my work. I had 2 other weddings that month, plus a corporate event and a couple of birthday parties. The summer wedding season was in full swing, and I barely had time to think about Megan's situation. My team and I were working 12-hour days, but the clients were happy, and the business was thriving. Fast forward to the wedding day. I wasn't invited, probably because of the whole catering issue, but that was fine by me. I'd been to enough family weddings to know that they could be stressful affairs, full of old grievances and forced conversations. I spent the evening relaxing at home, enjoying a rare Saturday off. I ordered takeout from my favorite Thai place, opened a bottle of wine, and watched a movie. It was the first time in weeks that I'd had a completely free evening. Then at 7 a.m. the next morning, I woke up to dozens of missed calls. The insistent buzzing of my phone pulled me from a deep sleep, and I groggily reached for it, expecting maybe an emergency with one of my upcoming events. Instead, I saw a string of missed calls from Megan, her mom, even my own mother. The timestamp showed they'd started calling around 6 a.m. and hadn't stopped. Something was very wrong. My first thought was that there had been an accident, maybe someone had been hurt at the wedding. I finally picked up my mom's call, groggy and annoyed. "Oh my God, it was a disaster," she whispered. I could hear the shock in her voice, the kind of tone people use when they're describing something almost too awful to believe. "What?" I rubbed my eyes, trying to wake up fully. "The food, it was horrible. Megan is freaking out." As my mom filled me in on the details, I felt a mixture of vindication and genuine sympathy. "The caterers she hired were awful," Mom continued. "The chicken was undercooked, actually pink in the middle. Several guests got sick. The pasta was stone cold, like it had been sitting out for hours. And the seafood platter, oh my God, it was clearly canned tuna just dumped on a plate with some crackers." I could picture the scene. A wedding reception where the food was so bad that it became the main topic of conversation. Guests whispering to each other about the quality, maybe even refusing to eat. The bride and groom's special day overshadowed by culinary disasters. "People left early," Mom said. By 9 p.m., half the guests had gone home. The ones who stayed were just drinking and avoiding the food. Megan was in the bathroom crying, and Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear. I bit my lip to keep from laughing. It wasn't funny, exactly, but there was a certain poetic justice to it. Mom continued, "She's begging you to come fix it. They need real food for the brunch reception today." Apparently, Megan had planned a day after brunch for out-of-town guests, and now she was panicking about having the same caterer handle it. I blinked. So let me get this straight. She refused to pay me, found someone better, and now she wants me to come in last minute to save the day? The audacity was breathtaking. She dismissed my services, insulted my abilities, and now expected me to drop everything and rescue her wedding weekend. Mom sighed. "Yes." I let out a slow, satisfied exhale. "Tell her I'm unavailable." The decision came easily. I wasn't being vindictive, I genuinely was unavailable. Sunday brunch service requires extensive prep work that should have started days ago. Even if I'd wanted to help, there was no way to pull together a quality meal for that many people with a few hours' notice. But more than that, I wasn't going to reward her behavior. She'd made her choice, and now she had to live with the consequences. Mom gasped. "What?" "But I have plans," I said. "Besides, I wouldn't want to take business away from the caterer she hired." The sarcasm in that last line was intentional. If this other caterer was just as good as me, then surely they could handle the brunch as well. Mom knew better than to argue. She understood my business better than most family members, and she'd seen how hard I worked to build my reputation. She relayed the message, and within an hour, Megan lost her mind. She sent me a long, furious text about how I was selfish and petty, how I was ruining her wedding by refusing to help when it really mattered. The message was full of accusations and guilt trips, but it only confirmed that I'd made the right decision. If this was how she reacted to a simple no, imagine how she would have behaved if I'd worked the wedding for free and something had gone wrong. I didn't even bother responding. Later I found out that the brunch ended up being grocery store deli trays that Megan's mom had panic bought at the last second. Wilted sandwiches, store-bought cookies, and fruit salad from plastic containers. People were not impressed. Megan is still salty about it to this day. But guess what? She never found someone better. The caterer she'd hired was apparently a friend of a friend who did catering as a side hustle. No professional experience, no proper equipment, no understanding of food safety. She'd chosen price over quality and got exactly what she paid for. So after I refused to swoop in and save Megan's wedding brunch, I thought that was the end of it. I figured she'd eventually cool off, we'd have an awkward conversation at the next family gathering, and life would move on. I was wrong. A few days later, I started noticing something strange. Bad reviews began popping up on my business page. At first, I thought it was just coincidence. Every business gets the occasional bad review, and I'd learned not to take them too personally. But these were different. Terrible service, one read. Food was bland and arrived cold. Unprofessional. The review was short and vague, without any specific details that would help me understand what had gone wrong. Another one said, "Cancelled last minute and ruined my event. The chicken made everyone sick. Avoid at all costs." I read each one, my stomach tightening. These were fake reviews, and not even particularly well-crafted ones. They were too generic, too similar in tone and structure. And it wasn't just one or two. There were dozens, all posted within hours of each other. My overall rating, which had taken years to build up to 4.8 stars, was plummeting. I checked the profiles of the reviewers. Most of them were brand new accounts with no profile pictures, no other reviews, no signs of being real people. But a few had familiar names, Megan's friends from high school and college. I clenched my jaw. She was trying to ruin my business. This wasn't just about the wedding anymore. This was a deliberate attempt to destroy my livelihood because I'd refused to work for free. I called her immediately. She didn't pick up, no surprise there. I decided to go to the source. I texted her, keeping my tone as calm and professional as possible. "Hey, Megan. Just saw a bunch of fake reviews on my business page. I know you're upset, but this isn't the way to handle it. Please have them taken down." She read the message instantly. I could see the read receipt. But no reply came. Then, minutes later, I got a notification that she'd blocked me. That's when I knew this wasn't just petty drama. This was war. The betrayal hit me harder than I expected. I'd known Megan was dramatic, but I'd never imagined she'd be capable of something so calculated and cruel. She wasn't just venting her frustration, she was actively trying to destroy something I'd spent years building. I spent the next few days reporting every fake review to Google My Business and Yelp, but the damage was done. The platform's review systems are designed to prevent manipulation, but they're not perfect. It takes time for fake reviews to be investigated and removed, and in the meantime, potential clients were seeing my tanked rating and going elsewhere. Some of my regular clients reached out, concerned about what they were seeing online. I had to explain the situation, which was embarrassing and unprofessional. A few people even canceled upcoming bookings, worried about the quality of my service. I was furious, but I didn't have concrete proof that Megan was behind it. Not yet. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from another caterer in town. Let's call him Dave. Dave and I weren't exactly friends, but we had a professional respect for each other. We'd even collaborated on a few large events that were too big for either of us to handle alone. The catering community in our city was small, and we all knew each other. He sounded uncomfortable when he called. "Hey," he said, "I need to tell you something. I just got a call from a bride named Megan. She wanted me to write a bad review about you. Said you ruined her wedding and needed to be taught a lesson." I gripped the phone tighter. "She asked you to leave a fake review?" The audacity was stunning, but it also gave me exactly what I needed, proof of her campaign against me. "Yep," Dave sighed. "She offered to pay me $50 to write something nasty about your food and service. Told her I don't play that game, but figured you should know. She's calling other caterers too, trying to get them to join in." I was seeing red. She wasn't just venting her anger or trying to warn people away from my business. She was actively recruiting others to help her destroy my reputation. This was organized, deliberate, and completely unhinged. She was actively trying to destroy my business, and I needed proof. I had an idea, but I'd need help to pull it off. I got a friend, let's call her Sophie, to help me out. Sophie was a graphic designer who understood social media and had helped me with my business's online presence in the past. The plan was simple. Sophie would create a fake social media profile and approach Megan as a potential bride looking for catering recommendations. If Megan was really running a campaign against me, she'd likely take the bait and try to turn this bride against my business. Sophie messaged Megan from the fake account, pretending to be a newly engaged woman looking for caterers in the area. She asked if Megan had any recommendations or warnings about local vendors. Megan took the bait immediately. "Oh my God, yes," Megan wrote back within minutes. "Just avoid my business name at all costs. Total disaster. They ruined my wedding, showed up late, food was terrible, completely unprofessional. I'm trying to warn as many people as possible about them." But she didn't stop there. "Actually," she continued, "I'm putting together a group to leave bad reviews and warn people about them. "Wanna join?" She sent Sophie a group chat invite. We hit the jackpot. Inside the chat were Megan and at least 15 of her friends, all actively planning to flood my business page with fake reviews. They had scripts prepared, fake stories about terrible experiences, and even photos of disgusting food they'd pulled from Google to use as evidence of my poor service. The chat history was damning. Megan had been coordinating this campaign for days, assigning different friends to target different review platforms. She'd created a whole narrative about how I'd ruined her wedding, complete with fabricated details about late arrivals, cold food, and rude service. None of it was true, but it was detailed enough to sound convincing. Sophie screenshot everything. Now I had proof of exactly what Megan was doing, and I wasn't just going to sit back and take it. It was time to fight back. The counterattack started the next morning. I called Megan's dad, Uncle Dan. Now, Uncle Dan is an old school, no-nonsense kind of guy who'd worked his way up from nothing to build a successful construction company. He's always been supportive of my business, often recommending me to his business associates for corporate events. More importantly, I knew he had no idea what his daughter was up to. Dan valued honesty and hard work above all else, and he'd raised Megan to have those same values. Clearly, the message hadn't stuck. When I told him about the fake review campaign, he was silent for a long time. I could hear him breathing heavily on the other end of the line. Then he sighed. "I'll handle it," he said in a tone that suggested Megan was about to have a very unpleasant conversation with her father. Within an hour, Megan unblocked me and sent a frantic text. "Why would you tell my dad?" she wrote. There was panic in her message, the kind of fear that comes from knowing you're about to face serious consequences. "Why would you try to destroy my business?" I replied. She sent a string of excuses that only made her look worse. "I was just mad. I didn't think it was a big deal. You didn't even help me when I needed you. It's not like you lost money over it." That last line was particularly infuriating. Of course I'd lost money. Cancelled bookings, damaged reputation, time spent dealing with fake reviews instead of focusing on my actual work. But even if I hadn't lost money, her logic was insane, trying to ruin someone's livelihood because they wouldn't work for free. I didn't reply to her excuses. Instead, I forwarded all the screenshots to Google My Business and Yelp's review departments. Over the next few weeks, her entire group got banned from leaving reviews, and all the fake reviews were systematically removed. My page was restored to its original rating, but the damage to my peace of mind wasn't so easily repaired. The ultimate twist came a week later, when I got one more call that changed everything. It was from the caterer Megan had originally hired, the one who'd ruined her wedding dinner. Let's call him Rick. He sounded pissed. "She just tried to file a chargeback on my payment," he said. Claimed I scammed her and that the food was inedible. She ate half the food at the wedding, complained about the rest, and now she wants her money back. "Are you serious?" I asked, though I wasn't really surprised. "Oh yeah," he said. "She paid me half up front, then tried to get the bank to refund it after the wedding. Guess she thought she could get a free wedding meal." I whistled. She really doesn't know when to quit. The pattern was becoming clear. Megan had a history of trying to get services for free, whether through manipulation, fake reviews, or outright fraud. "Oh, I'm not letting it slide," he said. "I'm taking her to small claims court." Good for him, I thought. Someone needed to hold her accountable. And that's when it hit me. Megan wasn't just entitled, she was a scammer. And karma was just getting started. A few weeks passed, and business slowly returned to normal. The fake reviews were gone, my regular clients were reassured, and new bookings were coming in. I thought the worst was behind me. But then I got a weird call from another wedding client. "Hey," she said, "just wanted to check, are you still catering my wedding?" "Of course," I replied. "Why would you think otherwise?" "Well, someone told me you went out of business," she said. My stomach dropped. "Who told you that?" I spent the next hour calling all my upcoming clients, and sure enough, several of them had received similar messages. Someone was personally contacting my clients, telling them I'd shut down or gone out of business. It didn't take long to figure out who. Megan had been systematically contacting my clients, using information she'd gathered from my social media pages and business website. She'd even gone so far as to create a fake email account under my business name and send out cancellation notices to some of my biggest events. The fake emails were crude but effective. They claimed that due to personal circumstances and health issues, I was shutting down my catering business immediately and canceling all upcoming events. Some clients had already started looking for replacement caterers. I wanted to scream. This wasn't just petty revenge anymore, this was sabotage on a professional level. She was actively trying to destroy my business relationships and reputation. I called Uncle Dan again, but this time he didn't pick up. I had a bad feeling about why. The family secret came out later that night when my mom called me. "Listen," she said carefully, "I know you're mad at Megan, but maybe it's time to just let this go." The tone in her voice suggested she knew something I didn't. "Let it go?" I almost laughed. "She's still trying to ruin me, Mom. She's contacting my clients, sending fake emails, trying to destroy my business. How can I just let that go?" Mom sighed. "Her parents are dealing with a lot right now." "What do you mean?" I pressed. Then she told me something I never saw coming. Uncle Dan had just found out that Megan had racked up over $30,000 in credit card debt. But that wasn't the worst part. She'd used his credit to do it, taking out loans and opening credit cards in his name to pay for her extravagant wedding. She'd forged his signature on loan applications, used his social security number to open accounts, and maxed out every line of credit she could get. The wedding had cost nearly $60,000, and she'd financed almost all of it through fraud. I sat there, stunned. She committed identity theft? Against her own father? Mom lowered her voice. Dan is trying to keep it quiet, but yes. The bank discovered the fraud during a routine credit check. Now they're demanding immediate payment, and Dan's credit is ruined. This wasn't just about me anymore. Megan wasn't just an entitled brat who threw tantrums when she didn't get her way. She was a criminal, willing to steal from her own family to maintain her fantasy lifestyle. Suddenly, her desperate attempts to destroy my business made perfect sense. She was drowning in debt and legal troubles, and she needed someone to blame. I realized that she'd probably never planned to pay for wedding catering in the first place. Whether she'd hired me or someone else, she would have found a way to avoid paying. If I'd done the job for free, she would have just moved on to the next vendor. If I'd charged her, she probably would have tried the same chargeback scheme she'd used on the other caterer. And now that her whole life was crashing down around her, she was desperate to blame someone else for her problems. That's when I decided I wasn't just going to sit back and let her destroy me while she destroyed herself. Megan had made it her mission to ruin me. I was about to return the favor, but I was going to do it the right way, with truth, evidence, and the support of everyone she'd wronged. The setup required careful planning. First, I had to confirm my suspicions about the other vendors from her wedding. I reached out to the original caterer, the one Megan had tried to scam with a chargeback. "Did she ever pay you?" I asked. "Nope," Rick replied. "She never showed up to court when I sued her. I won by default, and now I'm filing for wage garnishment. If she has any legitimate income, I'll get my money eventually." That gave me an idea. I started looking into the other vendors from her wedding, the florist, the DJ, the venue, the photographer. One by one, I reached out to them, and the pattern became clear. She hadn't paid any of them. The DJ was still waiting for his $1,500 fee. The florist had been ghosted after delivering thousands of dollars worth of arrangements. The cake decorator had spent 2 days creating a custom wedding cake and never received payment. The venue was threatening to send her account to collections. This wasn't just poor planning or temporary financial difficulties. Megan had systematically booked vendors with no intention of paying them. She'd created her dream wedding on borrowed money and other people's services, then tried to disappear when the bills came due. But she'd made one crucial mistake: she'd left a trail of evidence and a lot of angry people who were ready to take action. The showdown required one more phone call, this time directly to Uncle Dan. When I told him everything I'd discovered, the unpaid vendors, the systematic fraud, the coordinated attack on my business, he was quiet for a long time. Then he exploded. "I'll spare you the details of that conversation, but by the end of it, Megan's support system was officially gone. I'm cutting her off," Dan said. "No more help, no more bailouts. She made this mess, and she can clean it up herself." "You're really going to let her sink?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "She tried to destroy your business," he replied. "She stole from me, lied to me, and scammed half the town. She's made her choice, and now she has to live with the consequences." With that, the final piece was in place. I didn't know exactly how it would all play out, but Megan's house of cards was about to collapse, and I was going to have a front row seat to watch it happen. The explosion came at a family gathering, a birthday party for my aunt that had been planned for months. The venue was packed with dozens of relatives, all making small talk and pretending there wasn't a storm brewing beneath the surface. Megan walked in like nothing was wrong, hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless, fake smile plastered on her face. She was good at that, pretending everything was fine even when her world was falling apart. She made the rounds, hugging relatives and accepting congratulations on her recent marriage, acting like the perfect new bride. I watched her from across the room, marveling at her performance. She chatted with cousins, laughed at jokes, and played the part of the happy newlywed. But I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Then Uncle Dan stood up. "I need to say something," he announced, his voice cutting through the party chatter. The room fell silent, everyone turning to look at him. I felt a chill run through the room as people sensed that something serious was about to happen. Megan froze, her champagne glass halfway to her lips. Her face went pale as she realized what was coming. Dan's voice was eerily calm. "My daughter," he said, looking directly at Megan, "is a liar and a thief." The words hit the room like a physical blow. Someone gasped, a chair creaked, and I heard someone whisper, "Oh my God. Dad, what are you doing?" Megan laughed nervously, but the sound was hollow and desperate. Dan didn't blink. "You stole from me," he continued. "You stole from your wedding vendors. You tried to ruin your cousin's business. And now you're out of chances." The room erupted in whispers and murmurs. All eyes were on Megan, who looked like she wanted to disappear. But the confrontation was just beginning. One by one, the vendors she'd stiffed began to speak up. The DJ had been invited to the party, he was a friend of the family who'd done the wedding as a favor. You still owe me $1,500, he said quietly. The florist, who was my aunt's neighbor, stood up next. You ignored my calls after the wedding. I had to eat the cost of all those arrangements. Even the cake decorator, who'd been invited because she was dating one of our cousins, joined in. I custom made that cake, Megan. I spent 2 days on it, and you never paid me. The confrontation was devastating to watch. Megan's breathing became shallow, her face flushed red, and she looked around desperately for support that wasn't coming. Her own father had orchestrated this moment, and no one was going to save her. Then came the final blow. Rick, the original caterer, stepped forward and dropped a legal envelope in front of her. This is a garnishment notice, he said. Your wages will be docked until I get every penny you owe me. Megan's composure finally cracked. This isn't fair, she whispered, her voice breaking. This is an attack. You're all ganging up on me. But Dan's voice was like steel. No, Megan, he said. This is justice. You made your choices, and now you face the consequences. She looked at me then, her eyes desperate and pleading. You did this, she spat. You ruined my life. I tilted my head calmly. You did that all by yourself, Megan. That's when she completely lost it. She threw her champagne glass across the room, where it shattered against the wall. Then she turned on her father, her voice rising to a shriek. Dad, you don't understand. I had no choice. I didn't have the money. You wouldn't help me pay for the wedding. Dan's face darkened. I would have helped you if you'd asked honestly, he said. Instead, you stole from me. You forged my signature and destroyed my credit. Megan was hyperventilating now, trapped with nowhere to run. No more lies, no more manipulation, no more people willing to enable her behavior. Then, without another word, she turned and ran out of the party. The door slammed behind her, and the room fell silent. No one moved, no one chased after her. We all knew this was the end of something, the end of Megan's ability to manipulate and deceive, the end of her family's willingness to cover for her mistakes. That night, I expected an explosion of angry texts and voicemails. But Megan didn't call or text. She simply vanished, cutting off all contact with the family. Days passed, then weeks. Through the family grapevine, I heard about her downward spiral. She lost her job when the wage garnishment kicked in, her boss didn't want to deal with the paperwork and drama. Without steady income, she couldn't cover her mounting debts. The bank came after her for the fraudulent loans. Collection agencies called constantly. She moved in with a friend, but that arrangement lasted only 2 weeks before they kicked her out, tired of the constant harassment from creditors. Eventually, she had no choice but to crawl back to Uncle Dan, begging and crying for help. But Dan held firm, shutting the door in her face. For the first time in her life, Megan had to face the consequences of her actions alone. It's been a year since then. Megan and I haven't spoken since that night at the party. She tried to reach out once, sending a single text that simply said, "I'm sorry." But I never responded. Some things you don't come back from. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. I lost nothing in this conflict, my business is thriving, my reputation is intact, and I've learned valuable lessons about protecting myself from people who would exploit family relationships. Megan lost everything, her family's support, her financial security, her reputation, and any chance of redemption. And honestly, that was her own doing. Some people learn from their mistakes the easy way. Others have to learn the hard way. Megan learned when it was already too late.